everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to Center Court. We have in the house the Warrington College of Business at the University of Florida. Representing the school is John Gresley, the Director and Assistant Dean of the MBA program. Welcome, John.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
And it's great to see you and have you here as well. So let's get the basics done. Tell me about the business school. Describe it for someone who has never been to Warrington, never been to Florida. What can they expect when they step on campus?
Sure. So the Warrington College of Business and the UF MBA program, we are really excited to be one of the strongest and most innovative parts of the University of Florida. And here at the Warrington College, we enjoy all of the benefits that you would expect at a premier public research institution in a state like Florida. The charge here for us really is to enhance the lives of all of our stakeholders in a very large, diverse state that's quickly growing, and it spans from the beaches in Key West and South Beach all the way up into the Panhandle. So you can understand how diverse and interesting the state of Florida is, and we are right here in the middle of it. The university is charged with bringing excellence in all of bringing excellence to the lives of all of our residents here in the state. And I think those those outcomes are pretty clearly represented in things like the top 5 public institution ranking that they've got going on right now. We have one of the world's largest and fastest educational supercomputers that's really powering our initiative to bring artificial intelligence to the university curriculum across the board. And that includes here at the Warrington College of Business. We've got a leading initiative in terms of our tech transfer as it relates to how the university takes the things that people learn here and moves them into the private sector or the public sector, depending on how that works. And we really are aggressive in our research agenda, and we're really pushing to be the best that we can be as a premier institution. And being a student here at the Warrington College and in the UF MBA program puts you right in the middle of it, right? So we're looking at how do we take all of those kinds of initiatives, how do we give students access to those leading faculty and give them the skills that they need to then help all of those big initiatives that the university has that the students are going to encounter when they graduate and go out into the world, and make them competent and capable of delivering the results in terms of finance and accounting and operations management and marketing and all the things that we know happen at a college of business. And that's really pretty exciting. I think it's a great time to be in the state of Florida, and it's an even better time to be studying business right here at the UF MBA program.
And for those of you who are not in the United States and may not be familiar with the geography of the United States, you need to know that Florida is a state that does not see snow. During the winter time, people can stroll around in shorts and t-shirts and sandals, which certainly wouldn't be true up in the Northeast. So the weather during the school year is quite conducive to a lot of outdoor activity and a lot of fun. Now, what are the key strengths of the MBA program? What do you do that might be different, unusual, unique? And what are the things that are just core to a great MBA program that you're doing?
The things that are core here at the UF MBA program are certainly innovation. You know, we have one of the best ranked online MBA programs, and part of that comes from a culture that has really been fostering online learning and education since the early 90s. And over the last 10 years, the world has clearly caught up in terms of how we do things online. But Warrington and the UF MBA program have been pushing that boundary for the better part now of 25 years. And we've consistently evolved and changed and grown with that technology. So we like to think of ourselves as leaders in that space. And when you have that kind of innovation built into your DNA of how you offer your programs, it translates out to all the other things that we talk about. What are we learning? How's it delivered? How are we reinforcing that? So we're definitely innovative in the way we think about things, and it doesn't really matter which format you're in. We have that kind of innovation. We also get a lot of quality students, right? We are a premier institution, like I mentioned, here in the state of Florida. So we attract some of the best and the brightest in the state of Florida with that online option across the board, whether it's undergraduate, graduate, or beyond. We also get a lot of folks from outside the state of Florida. So you really get a lot of really good quality students here, and we deliver at quantity, right? As a state school, we're not able to sort of be hyper selective and have these really super small programs. We do find ways to make it small and personal, but we deliver that quality at scale. And if you think about the fact that there's over 520,000 living alumni from the University of Florida, and the Gator Nation is powerful, and the 85,000 plus Warrington College of Business grads, there's really a strong network of really great people that want to be connected and want to have that, that camaraderie that you get when you participate or you're a student here at the University of Florida. And so to get to that, to get to all those, to those three things, you've really got to have a pretty specific focus on the students. And I think we do that as well as anybody in the country right now, whether it's the educational experience in the classroom, the personalized career coaching that our business career services team delivers, the application and professional development that we're doing in conjunction to bring those concepts to life and help them, the students in their career journey. And, you know, the investment that we're making in the students' overall well-being and performance, like those things all come together to deliver, I think, a pretty specific package that you can't find a whole lot of places right now.
Yeah, which leads me into personal development and leadership. I wonder what kind of emphasis the program puts on those two elements of personal development.
I think that when you talk about an MBA, you're talking about a degree that really cuts across every facet of your life. So while there are plenty of educational credentials out there that really are focused on that idea of sort of educational development, the MBA at its core is personal development. So I'd argue, John, that we're doing 100% personal development and leadership right now, because you come here and you learn about finance, and you certainly are going to be able to apply that if you're doing a role at your company that touches on the profit and loss, for example. But you're also learning about things like, how do you buy your first house? If you've never had a lot of experience with how does a mortgage work and how do they set the interest rates over a 30-year period and how they change in 30 versus 15, there's a lot of skills that we call business skills that are really foundational life skills that if you've come from a non-traditional business background may be completely foreign to you until you find yourself in an MBA. So not only are you learning things that are going to make you better in your career, they're going to make you better at navigating the world around you. The big topic right now, and I know that this has to be a little evergreen, but the debt ceiling is a huge conversation right now, right? And how many people, lay people, if you will, really understand what the debt ceiling means? And certainly you can get all sorts of things out there from the media about what that means that can distill it down to help you understand how default is bad. But if you've got an MBA, it really comes to life, right? It's interesting. Those kinds of headlines really land in a different way. And I think that personalized learning laboratory that we're able to deliver in an MBA program is really all about professional development, or personal development rather. And so we're making better folks. And if you've got that kind of inquisitiveness, if you've got that kind of outlook on life, that's going to make you a better leader, because you're going to understand yourself better. You're going to understand the people you work with better. You're going to understand the environment that you're navigating better. And that's really the foundation of leadership, right? How do you take the information at your disposal? How do you use that to influence and create change? And so what we're doing here is all about personal development and leadership. And while a lot of it is through curriculum in a classroom, we're doing lots of stuff to help them hone their skills and persuasion and things like that too, for sure.
Yeah, because presentation skills and convincing others of your point of view is an important part of business environment and also of a good MBA program. Now, you have a variety of MBA programs. You referred to that before. I know you have your full-time, your executive MBA, your online MBA, and your weekend professional MBA. Am I missing any?
Those are our basic formats. We've got all kinds of different ways that we do those too. So we've got a 1-year program and a 2-year program. So if you've got that undergraduate degree in business, we don't spend a lot of time teaching you basic finance again. We let you jump right into the upper level stuff in the 1-year program. And then we've also got a satellite program in South Florida that acts like our weekend professional, but allows our folks down there in the Tri-County area, the Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach area to do something without having to come too far away from home.
So this goes back to what you said about innovation, because you're offering a tremendous amount of flexibility for people who want the MBA degree.
We like to think that you can get a UF MBA in whatever format makes sense for you. And that certainly helps us in terms of having a variety of value propositions to send to the market. But I also think it really helps the consumer, because then the idea is less about where's it at or what's it going, how's it going to work, or can I incur additional costs if I get a hotel room or whatever. Like, our students can look around and say, is this the right MBA program for me? And then we can figure out the right way to deliver it. And I think that's a huge value proposition, because a lot of folks have really good MBA programs, but potentially it's only in one format. And so if you can't make the commitment to meet them where they need you to be, that may cut off a really interesting opportunity for students. So by saying we can give you a UF MBA in whatever format best fits your lifestyle, we think that that's a great value proposition for us, because then we can attract the students that make the most sense for our community. And that's, again, back to that part of the value proposition of the quality students that you get to access and get to engage with here at UF.
Yeah, good point. There are a few topics that have become very popular in MBA programs of late. One of them is business analytics.
Mhm.
How are you approaching that topic in your MBA programs?
So we have certainly a pretty robust business analytics faculty here at Warrington. Some of them coming from pure business backgrounds and information systems, operations management, places like that, data science. We've also got some folks who are engineers who've gotten additional credentialing to come over to the College of Business. So we've got a pretty diverse way that we talk about business analytics here at the college. And there's definitely access to those courses in every one of those formats that I just mentioned. How much of them you get is going to be based on sort of what your schedule looks like and what our teaching resources look like. But everybody comes through and gets some foundational understanding of things like statistics, because that's kind of the baseline in terms of how are you doing data analysis, right? We've got some data visualization courses that are out there. We've got some elective courses in programming and things like that. We have a whole suite of professional development activities that may not show up on your transcript, but give you access to concepts in business analytics to build it out. We've got a concentration in our full-time space that focuses on business analytics. So we, like so many other schools out there, understand that how we use the information around us, how we do that analysis of business, is a big part of making good business leaders today. And we've done as much as we can to make sure that that is accessible to students who are in our various MBA programs.
Right. Another hot issue, of course, is sustainability. How are you addressing that topic?
Sustainability is one of those things that is really individual. And so we think that the UF program shines when it comes to that individual choice. And so how you approach sustainability is probably going to be dependent on what your lens is, right? Is it about carbon footprint? Is it about maximizing your resource consumption? All kinds of different ways that you can approach sustainability. So we do have some of that sprinkled in throughout the curriculum. A lot of that is going to be contextualized in the course that you're learning in. So we don't necessarily have an umbrella sustainability program, but in theory, if we're talking about a core economics course, right? Where does sustainability come into? How does a firm make supply and demand decisions? If it's a operations management course, where does the company place warehouses, or how do they align resources to make sure that they're being sustainable, whether that's in how they use resources or how they impact the environment. So it isn't necessarily an umbrella conversation, and we think it's much more of you're going to see a little bit of sustainability in all the courses, and how you kind of tease that out is also going to be dependent on, are you going to choose to do a sustainability focus in your finance project? And you certainly can do that, because that's the value of being able to bring some of your own self into the curriculum as well.
Great. And the other, and maybe not that there's ever a final thing about how business education evolves and new topics come along, but obviously diversity and inclusion has become a big thing. And I wonder why you think diversity of business schools is especially important, and how Warrington might be broadening the pipeline of applicants from underrepresented populations.
Diversity is absolutely how we create change, how we foster an environment where we can grow. And that's ultimately what all of us as individuals, and probably all of our individual organizations, want, right? How do we grow? How do we evolve? How do we meet the changing demands of the world around us? And a lot of that's through diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of approaches to problem solving. And so when we talk about the idea of diversity and the candidates that we bring in, it's absolutely about how do we recruit underrepresented populations, partly because we need those voices, right? In the real world, we encounter diversity. We encounter different ways of thinking. So we've got initiatives through things like Forte and some of the, Ramba, and some of the National Black MBA group and the Pro-Hispanica group to really reach out to candidates to the extent that we can. We've got some scholarships that are specifically designed by some people who've supported the college through private philanthropy, that are designed to increase access and availability to MBA programs. And obviously there's often a financial lift to that. So that's an opportunity for us to potentially broaden the pipeline. And part of it's out there doing conversations like this and saying, we've got to have different people. We've got to have people who look at the world in different ways, because if everybody looks at the problem the same way, you're going to get the same solution. And that's sort of the old, like, if every problem looks like if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, right? So
Exactly.
So this is how do we identify what the problem is? How do we get people who look at the world differently and can then communicate, right? Provide that leadership, help organizations be better, help individuals grow together.
Now, the other thing we should mention is that your full-time MBA program, whether it's accelerated or it's the full two-year program, these are intimate programs that everyone gets to know each other well and gets to know the faculty. What's your intake on the accelerated side? And then what's your intake on the regular full-time MBA?
So this is a great question, because it goes back to that conversation earlier about how do we take a giant place like the University of Florida and make it feel individual or make it feel personal. Right. And we do that through a cohort system. And so we've got the accelerated one-year program that does a full 48 credits in 12 months. We've got the accelerated program that does the one-year format, which is essentially you skip over the core. That's our 32 credit program. And then we have that full-time 2-year program that has the first year to second year going any time. So you're getting an individual space, right? And our intake varies. We're always shooting for smaller cohorts because we want it to be personal. We want you to be able to have that rich interaction with each other and that rich interaction with the faculty. Typically, we're shooting for somewhere between 10 and 15 in the accelerated one-year program. So the one for all majors and the one for business majors. And so we've been up and down on that in the last couple of years, and it sort of depends. I think our most recent class is right around 10, maybe a little less. And some of that is the function of, to do 48 credits of an MBA in 12 months, it takes a certain amount of
that's intense.
That's right. That's right. It takes you got to be committed. You got to be smart. You got to be willing to do the work. And so that is a program that absolutely doable. We find a lot of people who are very successful in that format, but you got to want it. And so it takes a very specific profile, which is why that one is where it's at. The online, or the 1 year for business majors, which is that 32 credit, is about the same size. Again, partly because we're seeing a lot of folks who are trying to figure out what makes sense for them. And sometimes if you're looking at an accelerated MBA like that, you want something that's more online so you don't have to uproot your life. That's a great program for somebody out there who knows that all they need is a credential to get promoted at where they're at. Maybe they're not a career changer or an industry switcher, right? They love their company, they love their job, they just want to be the boss. And so an MBA helps them get there. And so then you can look at that 1 year out of or 10 months in that scenario. And so that, again, it's a pretty specific market, and we're seeing more of that. And we have a lot of popular, that format is popular across our portfolio, but it's about 15 face-to-face. And some of that's just the function of, if you're only going to do something for 10 months, you got a lot of things to line up to make it happen. And then our intake in the 2 years, right about 30, 35. Very selective in that space because of the nature of the career coaching that we do. We have a finite amount of resources in that place. We have a finite amount of scholarships and support there. So we want to make sure that we're right sized and able to deliver on the value proposition of personalized career coaching, individual educational experience, opportunity to do that individualized professional development. So you're getting that whole package come together. And at some point, if you get bigger than that, we run out of the resources necessary to deliver that. So that's why we're shooting for somewhere between 30 and 35. But if you do all that math, we're getting about 60 people coming into the full-time program in any given summer. So from May to August, and that complements about 30 from the second year class the year before. So we're looking at about 75 to 90 people in any given year that populate our entire full-time program, which puts us, I think, right in the same neighborhood with a lot of our peers in the big public space, and really does provide a lot of opportunities for students to come in, get a full-time MBA in a format that makes sense for their life, and then go out and get that next career opportunity that they're looking for.
Yeah, and I would just say the great benefit of a smaller program like this is that you really do get to bond very strongly with your classmates. Your faculty is much more accessible to you. You're not just a number in a big factory. As you point out, John, you can pretty much customize the program through electives and through coaching to serve almost any business purpose whatsoever. So there are real advantages to being small, and some people would love that, obviously, because you're going to get a lot of individualized attention in that kind of environment. Now, how do you see graduate business education evolving in the coming years, John?
I think the question that we've all got to answer is, what is the student of 2030 going to look like? And that's true of graduate education. It's true of undergraduate education. To an extent, it's true of K-12 education. And obviously, at the graduate level, we are really at the end of that pipeline. So if we look at what folks are doing in K-12 right now, that's who we're going to see in 6 years, right? Because they're going to go on and do, or high school anyway, they're going to go on and do an undergraduate degree. They're going to work for a couple of years, and they're going to start potentially looking for an MBA. And so when we look at that, we know we've got a couple of things going on. One of them is you've got a group of students who have absolutely embraced the online world or the virtual world that the pandemic has made up, that it has forced us all into. And they love online learning. They love the opportunity to consume material at their leisure or on their schedule, depending on how you frame it. They love the opportunity to be able to go back and watch videos as teaching aids and study aids. And that's a hugely powerful thing for concept mastery, right? If you think about when you and I did it, if you didn't catch it the first time and you didn't write it down and you weren't bold enough to raise your hand and ask if it could be repeated, it was gone.
It was gone.
Nowadays, right, if you didn't catch it, you just hit 10 seconds back or 12 seconds back, and you can watch that as many times as you want until it is solidified. And that's a huge advantage if you're trying to learn, especially if you are trying to master tough concepts like the difference between assets and liabilities and counting, right? So there's a lot of folks that love that space. So how do we meet that educational outcome and that opportunity while also providing community, providing connection, providing the opportunity to engage across platforms, which is a big part of how we survive in the real world, right? We need that connection. We need that ability to relate to our peers, to build rapport, to negotiate how things work in a classroom environment. And so we've got to figure that out. And sometimes it's really straightforward, especially if it's places like community, because it's pretty easy to spin up an in-person networking event somewhere. So there are some ways to do that pretty well. So that's kind of the one side of things. I think the other faction is the group who was absolutely put off by online learning. And they're like, absolutely not. I don't want any part of this. I feel like I missed something because of it. And so we've got to meet them too. We've got to figure out a way to be where they want to be, which is that intensely face-to-face. The faculty member is right there. They're still expecting the same sort of level of educational mastery, though, because they've come to know that it's possible. So how are we helping our faculty really understand what that learning environment looks like so that they can focus on what's important, which is concept delivery? How are they providing cutting edge theory, current events, and case studies to really bring that material to life for our business students? So I think graduate education, certainly graduate management education, has got to figure out how to do what it does at its core, which is teach and educate. The ripples beyond that are, how do we respond to all the things that are challenging business leaders right now? I mentioned artificial intelligence, and obviously there's a new AI headline every day. And so what does that mean? Are there going to be jobs for everybody in 10 years or not? Kind of depends on which article you read on any given day. But how do we help managers understand their workforce? How do we help managers work with a workforce that doesn't always sit together anymore, right? There's a lot of skills to master in that space. And in these worlds where we're doing education in dual modality environments, I think we're really giving students an opportunity to put those skills to practice so they go out better, trained to manage workforces, to lead businesses, to do the big work of critical thinking at a distance. I don't know where you're sitting right now, John, but we're clearly having a conversation that's very rich and very interesting, but we're probably nowhere close to each other. So that's the power of what graduate management education can do. And we've got to figure out in the next 5-10 years of how do we continue to do what we do well for all the people that want it in different places. And I think that's the big challenge of where we're at.
Yeah, really true. And given the flexibility of your programs, it sounds like you're meeting that challenge already.
We feel good about it. Yeah.
Yes. Now, John, I wonder, what's your best advice for the people out there who want to pursue an MBA?
I think if we go back to my idea that an MBA is a personal development credential, I think you've got to be inquisitive. I think you've got to be willing to ask questions. You've got to really want to hone your critical thinking skills. So when I talk to prospects, the first thing I tell them is make sure you get your questions answered, because you want to find a program that's right for you. There are lots of great programs out there. And I know you talk to deans and directors on a regular basis, Sean, and there's just so much out there in this space for students to get what they want. And that's a huge outcome in a world where we know educational debt is a question mark for a lot of people. So making sure that you ask questions and that you're inquisitive and you get the answers to what you need for whether or not the program is right is a big important thing. I also think it helps students identify programs that value that kind of curiosity and that kind of thinking, because then you're going to be aligned in terms of what the program is trying to offer you and how you're getting the most out of that. And then you really start to see that stuff come together. But if you just check one or two boxes and you don't really dig deep on stuff, you're going to make a lot of assumptions, and I think you really miss out. And that kind of stuff can have really long-term ripple effects. So be inquisitive, ask lots of questions, get to know your admissions department, ask them who else they can talk to. You can talk to whether or not it's an alum or another student affairs member or somebody like me. I mean, I love talking to prospective students, and sometimes they call me up, and depending on what my schedule looks like, I'll answer the phone. And so that's the kind of thing that really, if you go out there, you form those relationships, you ask the right questions, that's how you get to the place where you're getting the right MBA for you, which is what and I think most of my peers in this space really want, is for students to get the outcome that they're searching for when they go out to make this big investment in their future.
Yeah, that's really true. And the other thing is, if you want to study in Florida, or maybe you want to study with Florida, but you're somewhere else, you've got an array of programs to look at. We mentioned a bunch of them. Obviously, if you are not in Florida but still want a Warrington MBA, you have an online option that you can take from anywhere in the world. If you are in Florida and you don't want to commit full-time, you can do the weekend professional MBA, or if you have enough work experience, the executive MBA. And if you are anywhere and want an on-campus experience, you have essentially 3 full-time MBA programs. You have the accelerated one for business majors, you have the 2-year traditional MBA, and then you have another accelerated MBA for those without business majors, right?
That's correct. You got it.
It's so many options, and few schools have that kind of portfolio that you can pretty much find what you really need and what you really want from Warrington if the MBA is in your future.
That's
well,
the
John,
goal.
thank you so much. It was a real pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Really enjoyed it, learned a lot about the program. And I hope everyone out there, if you want to know more about the program, simple. Warrington has a terrific website. The URL is, John?
It is floridamba.ufl.edu.
And it's very well organized, and actually it makes it very easy for someone who wants to do some deep research. Other thing is, John is readily available, as he mentioned, when he can be. So seek him out, seek a member of his team out, ask questions. Do you have an ambassador program with your current MBAs so that a future MBA might be able to talk to them?
We do have several opportunities. The full-time program has a pretty well built out ambassador program for our other full-time students. We do have lots of touch points though for alumni who are looking at for students who are looking for alumni from our other formats as well. Part of that though is managed on an individual basis through the admissions process.
Yeah, that's really a valuable source of information and can really give you a sense of what the program is like from the front lines from someone who has experienced it. The other thing you should know about Florida, it's a very dynamic place. Economic growth is strong. There are a lot of jobs available in the region, which is growing very quickly and has done so for more than a quarter of a century. So it's a very vibrant place to go and get a business degree, because you can rest assured that there are going to be plenty of job opportunities for you after it. Well, John, a pleasure. Thank you so much. And for all of you out there, thanks for watching. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. We've been speaking to John Gresley, who is the Assistant Dean and Director of the MBA program at the Warrington College of Business. Thanks for watching.